Soccerex Connected, a very good afternoon from London. Good morning to those of you in North, South, and Central America. Over 100 countries represented this week at Soccerex Connected into the final day. But I've got some bonus content for you. 6:45 myself and Patrick McCrenna, Head of Sales and Marketing at Soccerex, will be looking back on the week. Today is brought to you by WSC Sports, and our thanks to La Liga and the International Champions Cup for providing two incredible prizes. The most engaged viewer will get a signed Team Atletico Madrid shirt from this season, and they're rampant at the moment at the top of La Liga. And I've also got an Antoine Griezmann signed Barcelona shirt, and all you have to do to win that is send me a photograph of your favourite ever La Liga shirt. Get creative. Don't just rip a photo off the internet. Take a photo in your favourite La Liga shirt. Tell me why it's the most iconic. Bonus points if you stick a pet in the shirt or a young baby or child. But if you want to win the Antoine Griezmann shirt, then please do tell me your most iconic La Liga jersey. Thanks to Utkarash, who won yesterday in the random draw. He sent me a photograph of him in a Real Madrid shirt. Thanks to RLT90, who says that he went on holiday to Benidorm in 2006 and his brothers got a Real Madrid and a Barcelona shirt each. I have had Bianca, who's been in contact and sent me a couple of Barcelona shirts when they were sponsored by Rakuten a few seasons ago. One of them is a sort of turquoise colour. The other is just the home strip. Wayne Westcott sends me another Rakuten Barca shirt. That's the pink or salmon one. And a good entry here from Liam as well, who says, this is what I had back in 2002. It was my favourite. And this is a bright orange shirt from Valencia. So thank you very much indeed for that. Again, send me a photo via @Soccerex. Please use the hashtag SoccerexConnected to win that signed Antoine Griezmann shirt. And thanks again to La Liga North America and also to the International Champions Cup. So let's move on now to our 2 o'clock panel. It's called The Rain Man Fan. And most people find maths a bit of a chore, including those that work here at Soccerex, because they've clearly left a zero off all of our production staff's paychecks due to the fact only that they're bad at maths. They definitely deserve a pay rise for what they've done this week. Just look at the studio that I'm sitting in here. But a lot of fans that perhaps don't like maths still find themselves extraordinarily geeky over the numbers of their particular club, perhaps because a takeover is happening, or maybe they're just looking at the books or the wages. So where did all of this start? And what does it mean for owners, knowing that some of their more hardcore fans are going to also want to crunch their numbers? To discuss, we have a panel including Chris Schlosser, the SVP of Media at MLS, and alongside him Rajiv Maheswaran, the CEO of Second Spectrum. And our moderator is from MLSsoccer.com. She is a host and reporter. It's a very good morning, because she's over in the United States of America, to Susannah Collins.
Thank you so much, Ben. Hello, everyone. As he said, my name is Susannah Collins, and I am a host and reporter for MLSsoccer.com. And it is an absolute pleasure to once again be a part of Soccerex Connected and to host today's panel. It's a great one. MLS and Second Spectrum: Advanced Data's Impact on Football. So please join me in welcoming our guests. We have the Senior Vice President of Media at MLS, Chris Schlosser, and the CEO at Second Spectrum, Rajiv Maheswaran. Guys, so good to be with you this morning. Rajiv, I know it's bright and early on the West Coast in the United States, so we are very grateful for you setting that alarm clock this morning.
Not bright and early. I'm not even up yet.
Get that coffee in. Guys, because we have an awesome conversation to have today. It is absolutely incredible to look back over my 6 seasons at MLS and see how innovation and technology have been a catalyst for deeper fan engagement. And as the technology has changed, consumption habits have changed, and also fan behaviors have evolved. So now, more than ever, innovation with a purpose has resonated with the challenges of producing games and engaging with fans during the wake of a global pandemic. Yes. So we're going to dive into what makes soccer fans unique and how MLS continues to be at the forefront of utilizing data and technology to positively enhance the fan experience and bring fans closer to the game. So that leads us to our first topic of the day, which is soccer's digitally savvy fan. And Chris, we're going to start with you on this one. If you could just give us sort of a broad overstroke of what is the MLS fan? Who do they look like?
Good morning. I guess good afternoon for most of our viewers. Thanks for having us on today. You know, MLS fans are a little different. They are the youngest fans in American pro sports. They are more diverse than any other league, and they significantly over-index in use of all sorts of technology, whether it's streaming, whether it's use of mobile phones, et cetera. And so that puts us in a little bit of a unique position. As we think about broadly the sport of soccer in the United States, it's a different proposition, right? If you think about how baseball was built in America, it was really built by radio. And if you think about how NFL or the NBA were built, they were built by TV. And soccer, because of its place and when it's come to popularity here in the United States, it's really been built by digital. And we've done a ton of research on what drives fandom in and around the United States. And it's interesting because I think if all of you listening out there think about how you got into a certain sport or into a certain team, more likely than not, it came from your father or your parent or maybe a good friend or a best friend. That's not always true in the United States. I mean, my dad growing up, he really just liked football, the pointy kind. And so we had to come about this sport in different ways. And so we spent a lot of time understanding, well, how do people find this sport? And it's interesting. It's through their friends, but also one of the biggest drivers of fandom in the United States is video games. And the FIFA video game often is the on-ramp for someone who maybe doesn't know much about soccer, but in a dorm room or amongst their friends on a Saturday night, they start playing this video game and they get involved, they learn the teams, they learn the players. And then from there, they graduate into going to a game and watching on real games on TV. And so that really is the inspiration for a lot of what we'll talk about today, these really digitally savvy fans and how do we serve them using the latest technology.
Rajiv, what's your take on MLS fans from your sort of outside perspective looking in at the league?
So I have a front row seat. I can tell you a single person who signs it out. So Second Spectrum was founded about 8 years ago. Myself and my friend Yuhan Chang were professors of computer science at the University of Southern California. And a friend of ours named Jeff Suin started the company. And what we did as good professors is we got a bunch of kids to drop out of school and join the company. And the youngest of them was 19. This kid named Tal Levy. He was in our research lab, wore an MLS jersey to our research lab every single day. And he had a full scholarship. So we were telling him, he was a sophomore, he was 19, give up your full scholarship, drop out of school, join this company. We're going to do basketball first, but I promise you one day we will do soccer and we will do the MLS. I'm like, good enough for me. Dropped out of school, joined Second Spectrum, wore MLS jersey to our office every day. The Slack picture, it had an MLS jersey.
Wait, which jersey? Which jersey? We got to find out.
Sounders fan. He's from Seattle.
Okay.
So, but he wore different ones. He wouldn't just wear Sounders jerseys. It's like half of them were Sounders jerseys, but he would have like a bunch of different jerseys, U.S. men's national team on occasion, but hardcore. And then basically we worked on it and he just kept working on it. And he little by little built up our soccer thing. And he's like, I don't know, I guess he's the ripe old age of 27 now, 8-year veteran. He leads all the stuff that we do in soccer. And I think he's an example of what the MLS fan and why there's a different, like Chris talked about, young, but hardcore, loves his team, loves his team, loves the league, and was just all in on everything soccer, but in particular MLS. And the thing is, if you ask him his favorite soccer in the entire world, he will tell you it's MLS. And so it's like, that is the kind of fan that is an MLS fan. And we have many of them now, but I think it gives you an impression of all the things that Chris talked about. They are young and they love the league. And so, and I think that you could see everything that Chris is talking about instantiated in a single person. And then that sort of permeated. And we found that spirit to be alive throughout MLS and throughout everyone we've sort of encountered in the MLS.
Yeah, I like you, Rajiv. I have had a front row seat as well, especially with fan engagement, and they are as passionate as they come, and they love every single aspect of this league and the game. So I think both of your points are right on the money. Let's move it along to our second topic. And Rajiv, this is a great transition into this. We're going to look back at 2020 and the partnership between Second Spectrum. Yeah. And then we are going to provide an overview, Rajiv, if you will, just sort of general about what Second Spectrum is. So can you just kind of tell us sort of a big overview of what Second Spectrum actually is?
Absolutely. So at the highest level, I think you can think of Second Spectrum sort of brings artificial intelligence and sports together, right? And so that's pretty general, but what does that mean? So we take a lot of sort of computer vision and machine learning, and I would say build next generation products for sports. So one big thing that we do is do player tracking, which I think there's next generation data. So right, what's data, in soccer, shots on goals, maybe passes. We have cameras in every single stadium, and we track all the players, every frame of video, where they're standing. And soccer is a very geometric sport. And so we get all this data about where they are, what they're doing. So then we take all that data, we use machine learning to come up with all kinds of stuff that coaches and software that coaches and the league use to sort of analyze the game better, get better at the game, find video. And then we do this other thing, which is basically we take it and we can also basically have a graphics engine for video and basically turn an MLS game to look like a FIFA game, just the way Chris mentioned. So we have all this stuff that we do with augmented highlights and augmented video. And so I think that the lead into the panel was a lot about math, and we definitely do a lot of math, but that's not our product is to make awesome and sort of like the self-driving car of sports data and video. And the person in the self-driving car doesn't have to care about math. They're just like, whoa, this is awesome, right? And I think that's what we try to bring is we try to bring the awesomeness that technology can bring to sports, and that's what Second Spectrum does.
So on that note, Rajiv, can you kind of explain how the MLS and Second Spectrum partnership came to be? What were those early conversations like?
So it was great. I think it was always our hope that we would get to work with the MLS. But when MLS started, they had a desire to sort of become one of the tech forward league on the planet. But Chris put a whole bunch of people through a whole bunch of obstacle courses and decathlons to make sure that the MLS got the absolute best. So we were very excited. We went through that process. Chris tested and prodded and poked and make sure that we were up to snuff. But we went all out to try and win it because we really, really wanted to work with MLS, and we were very glad to get the opportunity to be selected. And then one of the things that was interesting for both, I think, MLS and us, is that sometimes people just want one of the things that we do, and MLS wanted everything that Second Spectrum did, and some things we didn't do and had to invent, and it was great. And so we went through that process. Chris and the league put us through that process. We ended up coming through, and in the last year, we did everything that we hoped to do, and we hope to do more in the following year.
And Rajiv, I think that was the perfect way to tee that up, right? Because this was the rare project that I come across that impacts all areas of our business, right? It really impacts the on-field play and improving the quality of our players, the quality of the soccer that happens on the field of our play. It impacts our business. There's huge business opportunities here. And then importantly, it's really great for fan engagement. And so this was the one project that could kind of check all three boxes in interesting ways and allow us to push the league forward. We aren't sitting on our heels in any way, shape, or form. We have enormous vision for what we think is the future of this game around the world. And that comes on our fields and developing great new young players with our MLS Next Academy initiative and really pushing the boundaries of what's happening in and around the sport in North America. We're coming off one of the best transfer periods we've ever had in terms of exporting great young players abroad. And that's critically important. And Second Spectrum is giving coaches all new ways to see the game. And that's awesome. And then, if we think about the fan side, building off of video games, we really think we can completely re-engineer the way fans experience the sport of soccer in North America over the next couple of years, and together that's our real challenge.
Chris, this is it was an interesting year last year for a variety of reasons. It was a milestone season for MLS in that it was the 25th season, but I think 2020 is going to be remembered as the season that everybody had to deal with this global pandemic. And then MLS did something pretty remarkable at the end of 2020, the Audi MLS Cup playoffs, the MLS Cup. This is when MLS launched the enhanced data broadcast and became the first global soccer league to deploy live second spectrum advanced data as part of an enhanced game string. Chris, why was 2020 the right time to implement this kind of technology?
Well, for starters, we had just incredible thoughts on where all this would go. And, we had been working for about 18 months to get everything into a position to hit play, installing 12 cameras in every stadium and running fiber and doing all these things. But, 2020 for us was our 25th season, and it allowed us to put a stake in the ground. I mean, it's amazing to think that MLS is 25 years old. And we really wanted to go big and bold, given that year. And so it was the perfect time to launch something like our partnership with Second Spectrum. Also, we've been watching this technology for a long time and, keeping an eye on it. And we just hadn't felt like it was truly ready for prime time. And, in the work that Rajiv mentioned, we ran a complete RFP process where we, talked to all sorts of different potential partners. We ran field tests in multiple stadiums, and we really kicked the tires to make sure that the technology was available. All that was in 2019 with grand plans to roll this out and launch in 2020. And we really got comfortable that the tech was ready. It was a great year for MLS, and it was the right moment to hit play and kind of roll this out for the world. Of course, the pandemic came. We had to hit pause and see where things landed. But, at the end of the day, we were able to pull off quite a lot together in 2020. And Rajiv and his team really were flexible and rolled with the punches of different schedules and, temporary venues in some cases, and, the details of dealing with trying to, staff in a pandemic, which is not easy. But I think at the end of the day, we really pulled off some very cool things, culminating in these groundbreaking broadcasts that we did in our playoffs in the fall. And the inspiration for that, let me just talk about those broadcasts for a minute. So the inspiration was going all the way back to what I said in the beginning, which was video games really are a driver of fan development in the US. And so we always had this dream to say, could we take some of what FIFA is doing and bring it to a real live soccer broadcast? And, to us, that was something we thought could be really interesting and really help develop fans. And so we put that challenge to Rajiv and his team. And through, 6 months of hard work, they were able to pull off some really cool magic, as I like to think of it.
Yeah, I think in a year full of challenges, what we were able to accomplish as a league, especially on this technology side, was definitely a bright spot. And this is a perfect transition into our next topic, which is the stadium infrastructure and the data captured. Now, as Chris kind of touched on it, there was a lot of work involved in actually implementing this technology, and Second Spectrum installed its state-of-the-art optical tracking system in every MLS stadium. They leverage their cameras and a cloud-based analytics engine, and Second Spectrum captures data on the location of every single player, the referee, the ball, 25 times per second, which is just nuts when you're kind of trying to wrap your head around that. So Rajiv, talk to us about the process of getting this technology installed. What was that like?
I mean, that was, I think, the most challenging part, and I want to give sort of credit to our lead Nicole DeFord and her sort of venue operations teams, but also with a lot of help from the league office. We wouldn't have been able to do it. I think that Chris talks about what a diverse league MLS is. It's also very diverse in terms of its venues, and so traveling around the country and in Canada as well, to try and make our system work in the large, diverse set of places where MLS teams play was challenging, and it was a tight timeline, but I think, we have a sort of an elite unit, and they went around, and with the league's help, we were able to sort of get everything installed, well in time before the season started, and do some tests. And I think just for us, it was good for us. I think Second Spectrum started its entire soccer endeavor in MLS. So I think, but when we first started building our soccer technology, we did it with partners in New England and San Jose, and those were our first installations ever. And then we added the rest of the league when we won the deal. And I think one of the things about this technology, we don't want to get too much in the weeds, is that we definitely leverage the cutting edge aspect of technology. We're fully sort of, once we put our stuff in there, and this would what helped, we never have to come back again. So we don't have to have people in the stadium. The system runs automatically, and both of our operations are all remote, and we don't basically have to have anyone in the stadium. And when 2020 hit, that was a big deal, that we didn't have to have anybody there. We could just sort of hit a button and turn everything on and get all that data that you talked about. So, but the setup was challenging, but with the league's help, we were able to get it done. And then the fact that we were able to run it basically without having to have someone be there turned out to be very good in 2020.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. We're that work from home life. I think we've all gotten quite used to that. Chris, can you kind of elaborate on the type of information that's captured during these broadcasts?
So I think that's a perfect transition, Susannah. So after we installed all the cameras in our stadiums, what this now generates for us is a couple things. The Second Spectrum system gives us all new video that we never had access to before. So super high res, 4K panoramic video, captures the location of all the players anywhere on the field of play in this great stitch that our coaches can use as needed. And then we provide our clubs with software, and the software is incredibly robust. It takes the video, our events data, and then the Second Spectrum super advanced insights feed, and puts that all together in a robust way for our coaches, our analysts to use in real time live around the country. And the software then also, and Rajiv and his team, and he's being modest, but the amount of math they do to pull off some of these metrics in real time is pretty incredible. Things like passing, the expected completion rate of a pass, or the expected shot accuracy, whether the shot's going to be successful or not. These are incredible metrics, and they're doing them in real time. And that just allows our coaches to see the game in all new ways. Talking to our analyst community, they've been blown away just by the depth of the system and the platform and the tools they have to use. On the fan side, this makes it really interesting for us because, from something basic like what's the speed of a runner, to showing the expected goal of a particular shot, we're able to now start to showcase fans all new things that they never had access to before. And that will only continue to grow as we go forward year over year here.
Yeah, it's really incredible. If you are a stats person and a numbers person, this information will literally blow your mind. And this software has allowed, as Chris kind of mentioned, enhanced video tools for coaches, so they actually can look at a report and see the production of their players, where they need to improve, where they're excelling. It's really pretty incredible. And Rajiv, from your side of things, on the technical side, how would you say this advanced data is sort of changing the game on your side?
So I think it's interesting because soccer, I can see why it's such a beautiful game. It's this geometry of two teams trying to really sort of work in space. And we've worked in other sports before. We've worked before. We got into soccer. We've done work with basketball and American football. But I think I didn't quite realize, like, soccer is it's this game with it's 90 minutes of all these people dancing in this beautiful geometry. But if you think about it, soccer hasn't had barely any data to describe this game in history, right? It's just like you talked about just goals and shots on goals and then maybe passes and stuff like that, but like you're missing what 90% of our players are doing over 90% of the time. And I think this completely changes everything about how a manager or a team can get to know their team, and fans can get to know their teams, because now you know what every player is doing. When somebody's making an off-ball run to sort of change a line, and somebody makes a pass between the lines that changes the shape and then sort of creates an opportunity, you get to learn about all of that, as opposed to sort of somebody took a shot, right? And so I think it is, for me, it has opened my eyes into how much strategy and thinking and creativity that both players and managers put into the game. Because right now, if you can't enumerate it, if you can't tag it, if you can't, it's hard to talk about it, right? And I think it's for me, I think it's data. This kind of data is going to be a bigger game changer in the sport of soccer than in any other sport, because the degree of what was known versus what could have been known is like bigger in soccer than in any other sport. So I think we are on the tip of the iceberg, and even the things that we've been able to do in the first year to sort of get to coaches is like, people are like, I can't believe you can know that, or I can't believe you can find that quickly. And I think we're just at the beginning of what we're going to be able to do.
Yeah, it's exciting. Go ahead, Chris.
One of the things that's really interesting is it's not necessarily all that hard to generate data. I mean, that takes a lot of work to install cameras and create all the data points and do all of that. But the much harder thing is to make actual use of the data. And one of the things that's interesting about the Second Spectrum system is it's not just a series of APIs. Sure, you can suck out the raw data via APIs, but more interesting is the way they have it set up, where you come right into the dashboard and you pick the team you're playing the following week, and you get all these automated insights on, which players are most likely to press, which ones are most likely to lose a ball under pressure, which players most likely make overlapping runs, which players are most likely to hurt you with a diagonal long ball. And that's just all automated insight that the team is generating without an analyst having to do anything. And so, we started talking about math, and the beauty of the Second Spectrum system in many ways is they take the math out of it, and they put this power in the hands of coaches who don't want to spend all day looking at spreadsheets, but they have a whole lot of questions and they want answers to those questions. And so that was one of the real differentiators in this system. It wasn't just about generating, multitudes of data. We're going to be buried under a mountain of data that's only going to grow as more tracking, more physical sensors, more connectivity comes. The question then becomes, what do you do with all this data? And that's where I think the Second Spectrum team is really on the very cutting edge and differentiating from the rest of the marketplace.
I think that's a really important point. I wanted to follow up on that, is that we have always maintained that tracking data by itself is primarily useless. I think when we came into the world, there was a lot of data that was created in a lot of sports and been creating that just basically, it was the numbers, so a big pile of numbers, and you put it where it was supposed to be, in a closet, and never looked at it. And I think we've never made it about numbers. The numbers are useful, but I think the key thing is, how do you make that data valuable? The data by itself is not valuable, but if you can take it and tell a coach, I can find you, between the lines passes that bypass 7 defenders and created, a shot here, or you could make a video, a soccer broadcast looks like a video game. That's valuable. So I think that's the key, the gap between data and insight, the data and engagement. That's the gap that we exist to create. We're not here to create tracking data. If that's all we were going to do, it's not worth it. And I think that's the key that everyone needs to focus on, is how do you make this the self-driving car? Like, that's what's cool. The people don't want to know the math. They want to know that what are you going to do for me? And we really focus on what we can get to a coach, what we can get to the league, what we can get to a fan. And I think that's the most important thing about all this stuff.
Rajiv, it's like you're teeing me up so perfectly for this conversation, because our next topic is fan response to this and how we measure success. And I can speak firsthand about watching these broadcasts. I've been watching soccer for years, and I am not a numbers person at all, but it has kind of changed the way that I view the game, and I'm learning so much, to your point, Rajiv. And I think that, as you said, like, we are just sort of scratching the surface of the capabilities here. But I think the best way to sort of showcase what people are getting out of this, we're going to take a look at a quick video to show you how this technology comes to life and how fans could interact with it. So here you go. Second Spectrum.
You can watch the MLS postseason in a new way than a unique feed produced in conjunction with Second Spectrum.
Randall Leal, great strike!
All the way wide it goes. Numbers coming in for San Jose. It's a goal! It's Rondolowski! Are you serious? Tuck tight. Will Alonso or Luis Diaz? Here he comes! Svensson!
From Zardes. Nagbe hits it up to himself, and what a strike from Darlington Nagbe!
So cool. So cool. This also just makes me so excited for this season. Like, can we start now? I miss it. That was awesome. That was absolutely awesome. Rajiv, can you kind of just walk us through what we saw in that video in particular?
Sure, I think so. I think what we have been able to do is sort of create a graphics engine that can take the data as input, but like create what you saw. And so you saw some of the various different things that we can see. So from a simple level, it's interesting the way soccer is shot. You don't want to show everything because the players are too small, and you can't focus on a single player because you miss a lot of stuff. So the interesting thing is, while you want to get people to know your great players, and so just little things like going from a video, just knowing what the names are of the various players are just valuable as a fan. You might know a handful of players, you get to know the other team, you get to know other people on the playing field, and the more you get to know people, the more you root for them. You also get to see. I've noticed by watching it, I also get to learn a little bit about formations and positions, because when somebody lights up, I always know, oh, they're always on that part of the field, or they're streaking here. And then another thing we do is you have the mini map on the side, and that's an important thing because there's all these important things in soccer about people, making runs, and you want to see the shape of the defense, and like you sometimes miss that, and it's great to be able to get that information. There are things like how fast people are running, and when you have like a counterattack, it's great to see the athleticism of the players. And the interesting that I found out, like, if your speed doesn't light up, it means you're not quite going, because if you were, I would have lit you up, right? And so that's kind of fun too, and to see sort of players race after each other. And then we can have more advanced stuff like XG light up on a shot, and again, these are some of the first kind of things that we're trying out. We got a whole bunch of cool new tricks in the bag that we're getting ready to sort of bring to the game in our second year. But I mean, these are just to sort of give you an idea how we can not just make it look like a video game, but also get the fan more engaged, because the players, the action, you get a sense of the athleticism, you get a sense of the strategy, and so it just brings you in. It teaches you more. Again, it teaches you more about the game than just sort of watching it. And we even notice, like, a lot of times the announcers, they spend a lot of their just talking about the player with the ball, and this frees them up to like talk about all the more advanced stuff that's going on and how they're breaking lines and how they're attacking. And I mean, I could keep going on and on, because like for me, it's super exciting, and I think it's a really big way to sort of get yourself to go from nothing to being a deep fan, and from a deeper fan to a deeper fan. So I can keep going.
Rajiv, you mentioned something there in passing that I think is actually critically important. Think about the sport of soccer and how it's been broadcast for basically forever. And the play-by-play announcer, says who has the ball, so-and-so passes to so-and-so, and every time the ball moves, the announcer is calling out the new player that has the ball. Now, imagine if on the screen, the guy's name is right on top of his head, so the play-by-play guy doesn't have to say who has the ball. That just fundamentally, it may seem like a small little detail, but that fundamentally changes how you call a soccer game. And it's those kind of little things that start to add up into a just completely different broadcast in the future.
Yeah, you're literally making soccer fans and pundits smarter by implementing this technology, which is just so very cool. Chris, on the fan side, how do you measure the success of this in terms of fan engagement?
Well, and we saw a little clip of it there. I mean, the reaction was just incredible right off the bat. The minute we put these out into the world, we started to see this flood of just positive comments come over the transom to us. And in this day and age, all of us live on social media. It is very rare when you launch something and the immediate response is very 100% positive. Wow, this is cool. Check this out. I mean, I feel like in this day and age, for whatever reason, and that's probably a whole different topic, you're met with this, wall of negativity, and we didn't see any of that. And I think that goes back to our fan base, right? If you think about our young digitally savvy fans, they really are hungry for new innovation.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were really enthused by that. And then the viewership numbers, we all of these were for the playoffs, they were second streams. So the main game was streamed, and then this was an alternate broadcast that we did, and we threw to it from the main broadcast, but it lived on its own. And the viewership was astounding. It really surprised us how long people watch these enhanced broadcasts, how many people watch these enhanced broadcasts. And I think our broadcast partners were, ESPN, Fox, and Univision were surprised as well at the traction that these got. And so as we build into a new season starting in April here, us and Rajiv and the team at Second Spectrum are really excited to take all that we did last year, and then that was just the edge of the iceberg, and we have so much more coming in the future.
I'm curious, Chris, which aspects do you think resonated the most with fans? Were there specific elements that seemed to get more of a reaction? I'm just curious.
It's something little, but it was that mini map.
Yeah.
The ability to see in real time the location of every player on the field, that really changes the way you watch a game. And you can just, we left it up almost like a watermark. So it was always there. It was persistent. And you could just kind of glance at it at any point and get a sense for where everyone was, what the team shape was, where players were making runs. And it really, again, just nicely added to the broadcast. And we found some, location in the bottom right corner that, isn't often used in a soccer broadcast.
Mm-hmm.
And so it worked, tremendously well. And I think that's one of those little things that you could see for years and years to come.
So cool. All right, let's move it along to our look ahead. And you both have kind of hit on this in terms of making some plans for the next couple of years and advancements in this technology. But Rajiv, what did you learn from this experience in 2020, positively, negatively, things that you are going to implement looking forward?
Yeah, I think so. I think that the first thing I learned, I mean, it was our first sort of big push into the world of soccer. And I think, you could have, there's always this impression that people don't like data, and there's sort of this narrative that people don't want to know things. And I think that I have found that not to be true. I think when people are very passionate about a game, and you can actually not give them a bunch of stuff that goes into a closet, but stuff that actually helps, understand the game more, you will get people leaning in very, very hard. And I think we didn't realize the amount of impact that we could make on the game of soccer on first the coaching side. And then, to be honest, it was, we weren't sure how the enhanced streams would land, and we were like, oh no, maybe people listen, people will like it, and people won't. But I think the way that the MLS and the soccer world in general has received that has blown us away. I mean, we thought it was cool, but often when you create something, you feel like what you're doing is cool, but like somebody on the other side's like, it's okay. But the reception that we have gotten in the world of soccer, and led by what we've been doing in first in the MLS, has been astounding. I'll tell you, people have looked at what we've done in the MLS, and now it has made us a global company. We have gotten requests from Europe, the Middle East, Africa, South America, Asia, all be like, I saw what you were doing. Can we do it here? And so it's the reception has been fantastic. And so that just makes us want to lean in more and do more and more things and bring more stuff into the soccer world. And certainly it was sort of spearheaded by MLS, that was sort of leaning in before we had even made any of it. So I think I'm super excited for what 2021 is going to bring.
Okay, so what are those things? What are we bringing in? What does that look like?
Well, it's like, it's more, faster, and better. So I think last year we were super excited to do the entire playoffs with MLS. I think we had several conversations, and I think you're going to see far more games throughout the season that are being broadcast the way they are. A lot of partners within the MLS and outside are leading it. So you'll get more. We're going to get faster and faster. I think I think faster and faster is like, you will not be able to tell the difference between everything. The data is going to get to both coaches and fans in more, newer, and better ways. And in better, I think we're going to tune it more and more. And I think for me, I think the future is giving people lots of different ways to watch the same thing. I think that's the promise of digital. Linear is always about, I'm going to give you this shiny thing, but this one shiny thing for everyone. Whereas, you have fans who are new to the game of soccer, fans who've been watching MLS for 26 years, 25 years. You've got people who are data and people who want explosions, and you've got lots of different kinds of people. And I think my hope for this year is you're going to get lots of different ways to watch it, and you'll get to pick the one that sings to you. So I think again, it depends on, how things happen with the world and the league and partners, but all signs that there's going to be sort of more, better, and faster.
More, better, faster. Chris, what does that look like from your perspective?
Well, Rajiv hit on what I think is the critically important point, and that is we are moving to a IP world where everybody gets their video over some version of IP. And why that's important is, if you think about today, we basically produce once for TV, and then if you're consuming that on some sort of digital device, it's the same thing as on TV. You're just getting a stream of it, and it's on your phone or your iPad or your Apple TV or whatever the device is. That's not going to be the way of the future. And the way of the future is we are going to be able to, starting with the core production, put everything in the cloud. So every camera goes direct into the cloud. And so now if everything's in the cloud and you don't have physical hardware that you have to work on, we can cut very different broadcasts. So a home and away broadcast may have very different cameras, or we might be able to create a broadcast that has, an ISO on a certain player, or you want to watch from just the behind the goal cam. All of that becomes possible if all the cameras are available to you in the cloud. And then as Rajiv was saying, in this, interactive IP world, then you can start to build all sorts of user controlled experiences. Do you want the, standard broadcast? Do you want your home announcers? Do you want, the super data broadcast? Do you want a sports betting broadcast? Do you want the trivia broadcast? Do you want the kidified broadcast? And all of that becomes just, click a button, click a button, click a button, and those things pop up for you. And that's the world we are going to be in very rapidly. And so we are working on every aspect of our production, from automated broadcast cameras through cloud production, and then with Second Spectrum on some of the end deliverables. And fundamentally, over the next 2 years, I think you're going to see giant shifts in the way soccer looks and is consumed, at least here in North America. It may not be the same in other countries around the world.
Chris, you mentioned sports betting, which is an aspect that I think that we are going to be seeing much more of across the sports landscape in general. How do you think this technology will affect that, and how will MLS integrate it?
Well, look, I think from a sports betting standpoint, the U.S. is probably late to this party. Right. Many of you around the world may be thinking, oh, sports betting, old hat. We've had that for years. It's been part and parcel of a soccer experience for, as long as you can remember. Here in the U.S., really, it's brand new. 2 years ago, the federal government repealed our prohibition on national sports betting. And so now in the U.S., state by state, states are opening up and allowing sports betting. And the volumes of people going out and placing bets is just going through the roof. State by state, as more and more states open up, it's becoming more and more powerful, and mobile sports betting is really driving the most usage versus going into a retail or physical casino. And we expect that to continue. And frankly, one of the impacts of COVID and the impact that COVID's having on state budgets is more and more states are looking to opening up sports betting, and maybe it'll happen even sooner than folks had expected. For us, as we think about the soccer experience, if we can use the second spectrum data, it allows us to offer prop bets on all sorts of things that may never have existed before.
Yeah.
So, if you're watching a live game, do you want to place a bet on, who's going to have the fastest run, or, how many passes are going to be completed in a row, or, who's going to create the most, who's going to complete the most unlikely pass during a game, the most difficult pass during a game, all things that you never could have bet on before. But the key, and Rajiv mentioned this, is we have to get faster. The key to sports betting is latency. And so we have to drive our whether it's our broadcast or our data, we have to make that faster and faster and faster. And I think that's really what you'll see in the years to come.
Very cool. We've got about 3.5 minutes left, and we've gotten some actually really great questions from some of the viewers. So I'm going to throw them out there. Rajiv, I'm going to ask you this one. This is from Patrick. He said, how can we bring these innovations like the mini map to sensory impaired fans? I think that's a great question.
Oh, so that's an interesting question. So I think we're just starting on what AI can do. And so there's a lot of stuff that we've built in other places that basically have AI-based commentators. So AI can just use this data and understand what's going on in the game. So for example, if you can't watch or you can't see that, we can also create audio, personalized audio based on a computer that understands the game and tells you what you want to hear.
Wow.
And so I think, or because with voice, we can create either text or we can create text to voice. And so there's a lot of stuff that we can do. And I think that's the whole point of technology, is that this lets you personalize. So whether you're personalizing because you're, you want to gamble, or you're personalizing for somebody who has some sort of audiovisual impairment, the ability to use, basically data allows a machine to understand the game, and a machine can personalize the broadcast, whether it's visual, auditory, something else, haptic. It can do what you need if a machine can deliver different things to different people. And I think that is the entire key, right? It's like nobody goes and says, I sell hamburgers, but I only have one hamburger. I'm gonna sell t-shirts, but I only have one shirt, right? It's not like the MLS, like we have one shirt. And so with broadcast, that's like this fundamental thing where you only have one broadcast, right? And it's not, tuned to different kinds of fans, including the kind that this fan asked about. And I think that's the entire power of bringing AI is personalization. And for me, the reason it's personal to me is definitely there's the gambler, but there's also the opposite, which is my kids, right? So I love watching sports, and I want to watch sports, and I want my kids to watch sports. And my kids play basketball and soccer, but I'll be frank, here's the real problem. They don't want to watch it. And I'm like, can I get them to like it so I can watch more of it, is one of my fundamental problems that I want to solve, right? And so I think and MLS has, the youngest fan base, in the world. And so I think that is the key, is we will use this technology to personalize it, and including in ways we've never thought of, like this fan brought up, but that is also, enabled by the power of a machine understanding sports.
The ultimate test of success of the second spectrum system was when my 6-year-old nephew walked by one of the broadcasts and said, "Whoa, what is that? That looks like a video game." And I was like, "We have won. That is fantastic." So that was just one of those instant reactions from a 6-year-old. Unvarnished and beautiful.
Well, that is exactly the kind of reaction that we're hoping for. And I think that is a perfect way to end this awesome discussion. We've got about 20 seconds left. So I'm going to close it out here. But Rajiv and Chris, cannot thank you enough for leading what has been a really eye-opening, interesting discussion about Second Spectrum. I am so excited to see what is to come next. I'm here for all of it. So thank you guys so much for tuning in and for watching along. And we hope you enjoyed the session. Enjoy the rest of your day. We're going to send it back to Ben in the studio.